Hello everybody, this is Freddy here. I'll be doing my thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises. This will be a part 1 of a 4-part review when it comes to my thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises. And before I get to it, just want to mention a few spoilers. As I mentioned, the spoiler alert, that I'll mention a few things from the movie, and that I made notes on my critic for The Dark Knight Rises, so it'll be easier to do a review on it. And so here it is. The good things about it. When it comes to the good things, there's two thoughts I've had when it came to Dark Knight Rises. Like, would it be better than The Dark Knight, which is number 2, and would they go according to the comic books, in which they have Bane, which is one of the new characters for this movie and is the main villain for this movie? Would they have him break Batman and having Batman become paralyzed? Hence the reason why Bane is called the man who broke the bat. Now, would it be better than The Dark Knight? I would say a little bit. Yes, that The Dark Knight Rises is a little bit better than The Dark Knight, especially since it's like the last part of the whole trilogy of the Batman series. But then, of course, The Dark Knight itself was very good, and that it's one of those kind of movies that would be kind of hard, that would be somewhat hard to outdo, because how it was made, and that the fact is it is still good. So yeah. Now about the other thought I had: would would Bane break Batman and have Batman become paralyzed? Well, actually, that's something I won't go into in this review. In fact, I'll leave that to you. The viewer, when it comes to watching the movie, so you'll know for yourself. Okay, would Bane do it, or would they not let that happen in the movie? Just for you to figure out, and to let that be a surprise for you, and then that way, I don't ruin anything when it comes to talking about this movie. Okay. Other things, that after much waiting anticipation, we finally know how they will end the trilogy. That it is, since it is the last part of the trilogy, that's another thing. That it has some of the things that we know about from the comic books, such as Bane and Catwoman. Though I would like to point out, as a side note, that they don't refer to her as Catwoman, but she is a cat burglar, and that we, the viewer, and the audience, we would know that she is Catwoman. And that, let's see. Oh yeah, that yes, they will have some of the things from the comic book, but at the same time, they will have the movie go according to the ideas, the vision, and the direction that the filmmakers had when it came to making The Dark Knight Rises, and when it came to making the other two movies, the Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Let's see. I liked how when to look at the movie from a psychological angle, that you get to know more about Bane, and that also talking about Bruce Wayne, about the fact that what happened is The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after what happened in The Dark Knight, so we see him a little bit older, and that we see how he's motivated in going back to being Batman, especially since there's Bane that will be causing a lot of problems for Gotham. And also, like, with that, and there's a little bit more, especially like there's parts where he's talking to Alfred the butler, talking about how he still feels bad of what happened before in the past, and his pain, his emotional issue that he's still having to deal with. And which leads to another thing I want to mention about Alfred, because the good thing is that when it comes to Alfred, we know that through his conversations with Bruce Wayne, that he says to Bruce Wayne how he's worried about him being Batman again, and how Alfred is, of course, is saying that because he's worried about Bruce Wayne, and he's trying to tell him that he wouldn't have to go and try to be Batman again. So yeah. And also, there's certain topics in the movie that were talked about, like hope, despair, and especially fear, because there's a part where Bruce Wayne, he's in a jail, and he's talking to another prisoner who happens to be blind, and is someone that knows a lot about medicine, about the health. He's like a doctor, and that when talking to this other prisoner, they talk about fear, and that how they went about it was actually pretty good and it was interesting. And the other good things about it, that the movie has good scenes and the climax is good, and that in the climax there is a surprising twist, and it reveals a little bit more about it reveals more details about certain characters in the movie. I won't say who, but I'll leave that to you, the viewer. And the ending was good. It kind of made sense, especially how it will go about reality, because because especially with the other two movies, the thing about Batman, is he good, is he bad, and that the fact that they saw him as like a doing something like a vigilante would do, that type of thing. So, but with the ending, it it kind of makes sense, and that it does, and it really helps in terms of how they would end the whole trilogy, and it was pretty good. So yeah. Also, the last things I want to mention about the good things, that Anne Hathaway, she did okay. She actually did good as Catwoman in terms of like the behavior, the whispering, sultry type of voice, and she did okay with the when it come to showing the skills that Catwoman would have as a cat burglar, and her fighting skills when it came to the fight scenes, which were pretty good. So yeah, and Tom Hardy, the actor, he did very. I mean, yeah, he did very good as Bane. Really, like because with him playing Bane, we have an idea about how Bane would sound, his voice, how he would express himself, his behavior, personality, these things. But then there's some things I want to talk more about Bane, and you see why, which will lead to my next video. So yeah. So these are the good things about the movie. The only problem with The Dark Knight Rises would have to be the fact that it's pretty long. Like, even though it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, right? And the fact that we're used to by now with how they will go about the movies of the Batman trilogy. That of course with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, they were very long too, and that even though in this movie, The Dark Knight Rises, that it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, it for me it felt like 3 hours. I remember like when going out of the theater, I noticed how much some time has passed, and that of course we only have so much time to watch the movie, and that are like, and you gotta think, okay, okay, I want to be able to relax, but at the same time, if I have something important to do, I will need to do it. But other than that, yeah, that's about it. Not much of bad things in the movie. So yeah, and so that's it. This is my first part in my 4-part review when it comes to The Dark Knight Rises, and so that's it. So be on the lookout for the next parts of this review. And so my name is Freddy, and I hope you enjoyed this review, and have a good day. Well, boy. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me a second. Oh, okay, there we go. And